Good evening and welcome to our live question and answer session for prospective students who are choosing to come to the Faculty of Education at Stellenbosch University. I am Zelda Barnes, Foundation Phase Program Coordinator in the faculty. I am also an academic staff member in the faculty, and with me tonight I have two colleagues who will introduce themselves.
Good evening. My name is Simtembile Eketwana. I am also a member of staff in the Faculty of Education. I am in the languages.
And over to our student representative who is also joining us tonight.
My name is Zoe Grace Bennett. I'm a second year Foundation Phase student and I'm the chairperson of the Education Student Committee at the Faculty of Education.
It's important to note that the Education Student Committee also has a very prominent voice in our faculty. That's a space where students engage through their peers with faculty rules and regulations, as well as the fact that students have initiatives within the faculty that is run through the Education Student Committee as well. We are expecting questions from you so that, and this is also an opportunity where you can ask more questions that will inform your decision about coming to Stellenbosch, as well as questions that you have that are coming up as you are preparing to come to Stellenbosch. But we have also thought of some questions and prepared those questions whilst we are waiting for you to send more questions. So our first question, and I know that some of you are really wondering about that, is how does selection take place for the B.Ed program? So remember that we have two B.Ed programs, one that equips you to specialize as a foundation phase teacher, and the other program that equips you to specialize as an intermediate phase teacher. So the selection criteria is the same for the two programs, except that for the intermediate phase program you should have two school subjects that you would choose to specialize in. So how do we select these students? Selection is done based on the selection criteria, which is available on our website, but selection is also done based on merit. So, and that is academic merit. So familiarize yourself. If you have not received any communication about selection, please go onto our website and click on the selection criteria option. There you will get access to our selection policy, and there it explains exactly how selection is done, as well as how we select students based on merit, and that is academic merit. Anyone else want to add something about selection?
I think you've covered it all.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you. Now, the next question that we have also thought that we should talk about is the national benchmarking tests. So, do you still need to write them? Do you have to write them if you choose to enroll for a B.Ed program? Off the bar, you don't have to write the national benchmarking tests. However, Dr. Simtembile will explain when you should have to write the national benchmarking test. Over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Perez. You don't have to write the national benchmark test, but if you somehow do not, or you fail the other language, is you have to have two languages, one at a home language and the other one at a first additional language. So if you fail the other one, or you don't have the other language, then you are required to write a national benchmark test, of which you need to obtain 60%. Then that's when you will be, of course, there is a language component that you're expected to get that 60% from. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your information about the selection. Zoe Grace, do you mind sharing some of the student experiences for a typical education student, undergraduate education student in our faculty?
So as a first year last year, for me it was waking up every Monday morning to attend an 8 a.m. lecture. That's how my year started. We started off with contact classes on campus, and then when COVID, we went into a heavy lockdown, we then went fully online, and this was the first year that we have actually all come together to be on campus, all phases, all years. So there's definitely a huge presence of students on campus. It has been phenomenal just seeing student interaction, student presence on campus. It's a lot of hard work as an education student, and I think time management plays a big role as an education student, especially from your second year onwards. As you start being in schools, you get placed in schools for observations in the beginning of the year, and you're teaching practicals in the third term. But yeah, overall, it's a good experience, a good balance between student life and academics, all about time management at the end of the day.
Great, thank you. And I think it's important to also note that a lot of the students out there who are now coming to school have spent the last 2 years actually learning online, or 60% of their schooling for the last 2 years has been done online. And Zoe Grace, now that you've had a bit of online learning, and now that we have emerged back to face-to-face lectures, can you tell the prospective students what the value of attending classes actually is?
Yes, so I personally hated online classes because there wasn't that interaction with your lectures. In full honesty, you would often sit in a Teams meeting or Teams lecture and you'd zone out because there's just not that one-on-one physical contact and interaction, answering questions within the lecture. So being on campus, it makes a huge difference in the way that you plan your academics, the way that you plan for tests and things like that, because often especially in the education faculty, is that lectures encourage group work, and it is seen that students learn a lot more from each other, engaging with one another, one-on-one conversations, sharing around content, dividing into groups, and just students presenting group work to the rest of their classmates. It's honestly the best way to learn, personally, is what I've gauged from my experience being back on campus. So.
Okay, so Zoe Grace has just highlighted the benefits of class attendance, and I know as young students coming into a space like university, there's a lot of freedom. There's a timetable that you have to structure yourself. And there's often a choice about whether I want to go to class, whether I should go to class, whether I could go to class, whether I would go to class. So Zoe Grace has told us now exactly the benefits of going to class, and also what happens in those classes. Universities courses are not structured like they were in the past, where there's a lecturer only being the bearer of knowledge. A lot of knowledge is constructed in the lecture theatres with the type of teaching and learning activities that happen, as well as how content is paced according to the theoretical knowledge that pre-service teachers need to have, as well as the practicals that you are prepared for. And a lot of what happens in the lecture theatre drives the preparation for practicals. So I'm keeping an eye on our WhatsApp line, and some of you are only saying hi. Please remember to complete your message with your inquiry so that we can address them as they come in. But let me go back to some of the questions that we have prepared. The other question, and in my term as program coordinator, I often get asked this question, and students often also battle with this at the end of the first year. I have applied for the foundation phase program. Will I be able to switch to the intermediate phase program? If there's space in the program, you can switch between the two programs. Often at the end of the first year, when students have dealt with some of the content, they also are betwixt between the two programs. And again, the response is the same. If there is space, it is possible for you to move between the two programs. It becomes a bit more difficult to move between programs at the end of the second, the third, and the fourth year, because then you have done so much content knowledge already that is focused on a specific program. So if you want to move between the two programs, it is advised that you explore that movement at the end of the first year, rather than wait for the second or the third year. Because if you wait for the second or the third year, you might actually have to extend your studies by another year or two, because you have to catch up on that content. Another question that we thought would come up is, my home language is isiXhosa and I do not speak Afrikaans. Will this put me at a disadvantage during selection? Dr. Simtembile, would you like to answer that?
Thanks very much, Dr. Perens. I think it's very important to understand that there are three languages that we work with at Stellenbosch University: English, Afrikaans, and isiXhosa. So say, for example, your home language is, of course, isiXhosa, and you are writing in matric, and of course you will also have English as your first additional language. Then it will not put you at a disadvantage, because you will just be accepted to the university just the same as the person whose home language is Afrikaans first home language. So the straight and simple answer is it will definitely not disadvantage you.
It won't disadvantage you at selection.
Yes.
So, Grace, what languages did you choose to do?
English and Afrikaans.
Okay, and what was your home language at school level?
English home language. And
Okay,
Afrikaans
and then how did that inform your choices for your programs?
So, within the foundation phase, in the foundation phase, all our lectures are in English, and there is an option for Afrikaans, where we have a tutor who's present per request, or isiXhosa. But within the foundation phase, from third year onwards, we have isiXhosa as another module, but not from first and second year. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so what Zoe Grace was actually saying is that for the B.Ed program, you have to choose a language that you would follow at home language level and one at first additional language level. Even though we offer three languages, you would, by the end of your degree, qualify with one language at home language level, one at first additional language, and then the other language you would explore as a communication level. So in the case of Zoe Grace, she has chosen to do English home language, Afrikaans first additional language, and when she is a third year student, she will be taking isiXhosa as a communication language. And in that part of the course, the faculty equips you with knowledge and skills to be able to converse and communicate within a classroom space in isiXhosa. Isn't that so?
Yes, it is so.
Great. Now, I am worried because there's no questions coming through on the WhatsApp line. Are we just doing well here? Are our students just so well informed?
We're getting all the answers.
Right, let's check some of the questions that we have prepared for you, because I know that there are some students back there even hesitant to send your WhatsApp. And that is the secret about university. You cannot hesitate to communicate. If you have a question or you have a burning issue, you're going to have to find ways and means of communicating those questions so that you can get the answers, because a question that is not explored is an opportunity missed for gaining valuable information. So now, another question that we thought we should talk about in tonight's session. My school follows the Cambridge curriculum. How does this affect my chances to be selected? The Faculty of Education and Stellenbosch University acknowledges the Cambridge education system. So whether you come from the system or not, you will not be disadvantaged for admission to any of the programs, not just the Faculty of Education. Okay. I have international teaching experience. Can I skip some modules? Sure, that's an interesting question. So what we do is that if you have completed if you are a student transferring from another institution, we actually do an analysis of the courses that you have completed, and we try and map it to what the courses are in our program, and we see if you can articulate between the two programs, and if there is an 80 to 90% correlation, we are able to give you recognition for some of the courses that you have passed already. However, What we do take into consideration is the national qualification framework and the level at which the course was, the academic content, the number of credits, and the credit system that was used when at the institution where you did the courses. So it's not just a lateral move, and it's not an easy process as well. There is a committee who sits and scrutinizes, remember, the course content, the outcomes, the NQF level of the course, the number of credits, so that we can make sure that we are being fair when recognition is given for modules passed already. And remember, international teaching experience does not guarantee you some sort of recognition. It needs to be courses that you have completed, and we can map it back to the national qualification framework. Right. Have you had any international students in your class?
No, I haven't had any international students in my class. Yeah.
It would be nice to have some international students, especially at bachelor level, hey?
Definitely,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
We always get them when they come on exchange.
Yes.
There's an exchange program.
Yes, tell them about it.
So we also have some exchange programs where some of the students will be coming, for example, from Germany or from other international universities to spend some time with us. And then, of course, we take some of the students from our program to experience how it is to go and probably do some of your bachelor's degree overseas. So I think that's actually quite a very important exchange programs that we have. Of course, the international office at Stellenbosch University facilitates that program together with the faculty that will be, of course, sending the students to a university that will be having a relationship, if I can put it in those simple terms, with Stellenbosch University. So there are those opportunities which are always available for you to explore when you're at varsity, so that by the time you leave, you don't just leave with a certificate, but you leave with knowledge.
Yes, and that is just but one of the great opportunities that are available for Stellenbosch University students. We have extensive partnerships with universities abroad and also on the African continent, and that is a rich learning experience for a lot of our students. We have our first question on the WhatsApp line that came through. This person did not include their name, and that's okay, but I will pose the question so that everybody knows. Hi, how do you know if intermediate phase or foundation phase is for you? That's an interesting question. I think I'm going to go over to Zoe Grace. Can you help that student?
So if I'm very honest, full discretion and full disclosure, my first choice throughout high school, I was determined that I was going to be an accountant. And then when it came to applying for university, it was honestly me being true to my calling. Education is a calling all in all, and that's why I'm sitting here today. For me, I knew it was foundation phase because I just have such a huge passion for working with little kiddos, helping them to reach their full potential, helping them grow into the person that they meant to be. So I feel like it all depends on your personality at the end of the day, and who you are as a person. I know that I do not see myself working with students who are 10 years and older or high school at all. I do not have the personality for that. So it all depends on you as a person at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think what you must also remember is that you have enough opportunities in your first year to explore that as well. You will be observing, as a first year student, you will be observing various micro teaching lessons where you will be able to see how other students interact with learners. So you can use that as an opportunity to explore your choice. Or me giving some advice to prospective students, go and spend some time in schools now after your very stressful matric exams, and as you are embracing your very long holiday over December, you will have some time in November. Go and volunteer at a school and just spend some time in a foundation phase classroom helping the teacher, because schools are very busy spaces and they can do with the extra help. Go and do some admin help in a school, and where you can then interact with learners learners and teachers, and you can then also make an informed decision about where you see yourself working, either in the foundation phase or in the intermediate phase. So there are some more questions coming through. I am so excited about this. There's one question I cannot see on the phone, so I'm just going to go over to the computer screen quickly. And this question, a question for Zoe Grace. Are you ready? Does the mentor program extend past the first week of welcoming? And what does welcoming entail? And will we meet our lecturers?
Firstly, thank you for that question. Mentors in the education faculty, yes, they are with you every step of the way throughout your entire first year. So within the university, if you stay in residence, you are allocated a residence mentor. If you stay in a PSO, which means that you travel into campus or you stay in private accommodation, then you get a PSO mentor. However, our faculty does offer academic mentors for our first year education students, and they are with you every single step of the way. They help you academically. They may be an emotional support system for you in time of need, whatever. It's a little brother-sister relationship that you form with your mentor, and they're willing to help you throughout the course of the year, whatever it may be. And then the welcoming program, you can expect to be introduced and exposed to various committees on campus and campus communities. Your PSO residents will have their own separate program, and we will then get to meet you according to their program, where they fit us in to your slot, and then you will meet some of your lecturers you will meet during the welcoming program. We are still organizing a few things around that, but overall it's very exciting. Welcoming week, be expectant. There's a lot coming your way from the Education Student Committee.
And if I can give you some advice, I think you also need to prepare yourself for welcoming week, because we have experienced that it's actually an information overload for students. So you have to think about how you process information in new spaces and prepare yourself for that. So if you need to start developing the habit of taking down notes or having a little black book for various reminders, that would be a good tool. You need to come to welcoming week with various tools where you can store all the information that you're going to get, so that when you need that information you know exactly where to find it. So there's another question here on the WhatsApp line. If I'm accepted to the university and I'm struggling to get a bursary, what will happen to me? That is a very difficult question to answer right now, because right here we cannot promise any bursaries, but we can equip you or give you some information where you could go to source further bursaries. So we have a bursaries and loans office, which is in our administration A building, and if you search on the website you should be able to allocate the bursary office as well. There should be a lists of bursaries available, but we must remind you of the Funza Lushaka bursary scheme that is available for education students, and then there's also the NSFAS bursary scheme that students can also apply for. Dr. Sintambile, can you share some information?
I think those are the two bursaries. I will encourage the students to actually start with the Funza Lushaka one, because it's specifically for students who are applying for education. So of course I think it's got requirements that are more similar to those of NSFAS, but it's a bursary worth exploring.
Yes. And it's a good bursary for education, or shall I say it's a comprehensive bursary and it's aimed and developed especially for education students. So go onto the Funza Lushaka website now already and just familiarize yourself with the application process and also the criteria for bursaries of such a nature. Here's another question. Hi, in first year are the classes full days on a daily basis? I would like to decide whether to stay in Stellenbosch or travel. So I think I'm going to give you. I'm going to start off, and then I'm going to hand over to Zoe as well, who is a student who can speak from a student perspective. But timetabling is very different at university than what it is at schools. Your timetable doesn't necessarily run from 8 o'clock until 5 o'clock. You might have class scattered across days at certain times. So there are some days where you might start at 8 o'clock and end at 5. Some days where you start at 10 and end at 5. It depends on the subjects that you choose and your subject groupings as well. But to have a good student experience, and I'm not only implying for the social, but to have a good academic student experience, it would be advisable to live as close to campus as possible, because we have rich resources available on campus. Students can work in the library until 10 o'clock at night. In our computer laboratories, they are also open until very late at night. You often have group assignments where you need to meet with your fellow students, and we have student working spaces available on campus where you can meet as groups. And if you are traveling back and forth, it just impacts on how you are able to structure those working arrangements. Zoe, would you like to share some of your experiences?
You basically answered it all, Dr. Barnes. Everything that I was going to say. I actually can speak from experience. I traveled in my first year, and this year I stayed on campus, and it's been the best decision actually, because you have more time, so there's not that time of traveling back home to campus and vice versa. And you get that additional campus life experience that all students look forward to when they come to Stellenbosch University. So yes.
And campus life is it's not just about academics, but you also a big part of a student's growth happens by being involved in the activities on campus, being involved with your peers and the circles that you move in. So it will be good to live as close to Stellenbosch as possible, or even as close to campus as possible. There's a lot of things in walking distance, so excuse me, and it's reasonably safe to walk around on campus. So if you can stay as close to campus as possible, please consider that. Right.
I just want to say one thing. I can tell them that the traffic moving in and out of Stellenbosch is a nightmare. So if you really want to start your day in a very calm manner without having been stressed by traffic, I think it will be definitely advised to be as close as you can.
That's right. But there's a lot of walking traffic too, because Stellenbosch is a busy town, eh? Right, we have another question here from somebody. Can we choose the school that we go to for our teaching practicals? So I'm just going to give you the program response to this question, and then I would like to revert the question to Zoe Grace as well, so that she can also just share her experience as a student. So you will be engaged in practicals right through your program from first year to fourth year. In first year, you might not necessarily have to go out to schools, but there might be excursions where we will take you to certain educational spaces for observation, etc. Transport for that and selection of those is usually done by the academic staff members who organize your programs. In the foundation phase program and the intermediate phase program, you will also at second year level be visiting schools on a Thursday morning. There are certain schools that we would like you to visit, but students have a choice with the schools that they want to visit in that time. Then for your students also have an 8-week practicum in the third term. In the second and the third year, we encourage students to choose schools either close to their hometown or outside of Stellenbosch, because the Stellenbosch and surrounding schools are reserved for our fourth year students who need to be evaluated by either the academic staff members or mentors that are assigned for teaching practice. So there is a choice, but the choice is limited as the course progresses. Zoe, how did you make your decisions?
So for my observations at the beginning of the year, I went to school back in my hometown, and because I stayed on campus, I couldn't attend a school in Stellenbosch for my third term teaching practicum because it was reserved for our fourth year students. So I fortunately got the opportunity to do my teaching practical, back at the same school that I done my observations at. However, lectures do encourage you to expand and go to new schools. So I know you can't repeat a year. So in third year, you can't go back to the same school that you went to in your second year. So to just become familiar with different curriculums, different schooling systems and structures that you get within South Africa. So
yes. So Zoe has assured you that you do have a choice, but what she has reminded you of is that there's a responsibility that comes with that choice. So I see that our WhatsApp line is rather buzzing here, and the next question, I am not sure about the context of this question, but the question is as follows: how do you know what to do and where to go next year when you start? Zoe, do you want to answer that?
Welcoming week. Welcoming week. We will be with you every step of the way, guiding you. We have a whole program set out for you in which we will take you throughout the entire university. We'll give you campus tours, faculty tours, everything. You will know like where to go. You'll know everything that you need to know. Just be present and come to Welcoming Week.
So Zoe has given you background to Welcoming Week, but Stellenbosch University as an institution has an onboarding program, and that is an institutional-wide program where the residences and the various res sectors that you will be divided into also have a responsibility, and within that program they will tell you exactly when you have to report to the faculty or when you have to report to your residence sections for welcoming and orientation. So just keep a lookout for your emails, and also keep a tab on all our social media platforms, because there will be notification on when you should receive information about onboarding. So just be vigilant and keep an eye open for that. Some more questions on our WhatsApp line. Please just add your name so that we can just say hi. Do I have to be a registered student to pay the reduced amount for residences allocated to me? At this moment in time, Dr. Simtimbile, can you give us some information about the residences?
Well, I'm not joking.
Oh, okay. Dr. Simtimbile just needs to water his throat. So I will get back to this question now, and I think I will go to another question quickly. And it says, why does Stellenbosch University not offer senior or FET phase teaching programs? Okay, so we have two BEd programs, primarily the foundation phase program as well as the intermediate phase program. We do offer the senior and FET band, but that is in a program called the postgraduate certificate in education. So you would have to complete a degree in another faculty, and then you can come and enroll for a 1-year teaching certificate in our faculty called the Postgraduate Certificate in Education, where you can then qualify as a senior and FET teacher. However, you need to have 2 teaching subjects as admission requirements for that program. So what do I mean by 2 teaching subjects? If you graduate with a BA degree, you need to have either a language and life orientation or psychology to become a language and life orientation teacher. Or if you have a BSc, you could do science and mathematics. Or if you're accounting, you could do accounting and economics or business education. But please consult our website and also our Faculty of Education general calendar that has the admission requirements for the senior and FET program, which is the Postgraduate Certificate in Education. Now, let's go back to the previous unanswered question. which is, do I have to be a registered student to pay the reduced amount for residence allocated to me? Dr. Sintembile, can you give us some information on residences and just payment deposits for residences? Do you know anything about that? I'm putting you on the spot here.
I'll give my limited.
Okay, limited is also fine.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that question. In terms of residences, of course, there's a residence placement which you have to go through. And when you apply, I think you also have to choose which resident you would like to stay or you want to, and then you will be placed based on that. And in terms of payments, I really think it's really a difficult one to tell in terms of the minimum initial payment, but I do know that those minimum initial payments that one has to sort of put down, if of course you pay for yourself, if the bursary is there, that will be taken care by the bursary scheme and all of that. But it's always advised also to choose your good residence you want to stay in. Yeah. Thanks.
So more information about residences, residence placements and payments, you can also consult our website as well as contact, and if you want this question, if you want more depth to this question, I suggest that you send an email to info@sun.ac.za, and your email will be directed to the correct office, who would be able to give you the depth of information that you need for that question. So our WhatsApp line is now very quiet. I'm concerned. We either did this very well, we've given them all the information they need, or they're fast asleep. Are they fast asleep? I don't think so. Someone's typing here, so I'm hoping that there's a follow-up.
Someone just woke up.
Right, I think let's go. The other questions that we have prepared for you, are any of the modules completely online? And I'm going to start off by answering that question. You must remember that you are enrolling to a residential university. That implies that you will have to attend classes, and class attendance is compulsory at residential universities. We do not offer online courses. However, we have the opportunity of employing a hybrid mode of teaching and learning. That means that some of your classes will be face-to-face and some classes or tutorials may happen online, or we may use online platforms to facilitate certain classes. So no, there's no online learning, but we may draw on online platforms now and again for certain teaching and learning activities. Zoe Grace, do you really think that a B.Ed course can happen online at Stellenbosch University, just considering what Stellenbosch University offers?
Absolutely not. When I came to university, they told us about class. So that is where third and fourth year students present a lesson to a group of students in local schools and surrounding communities. And as first years, you sit in and observe their lesson, and because of COVID we weren't exposed to that, so that is definitely something that us as first years and even second years missed out on for the past 2 years. And the B.Ed program is very practical in the sense that you need face-to-face physical lectures and exposure, like you need to be on campus to experience it. So by all means, it is not possible to have a module online, although, I mean, there are some mornings that you don't want to stand up or wake up for 8 a.m. Monday lecture. It is impossible. Not impossible, but I would not advise you to get excited to stay at home to join a lecture online.
Okay. So Zoe Grace says there's an added benefit for coming to class, especially on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock. Right. We have another question here. Suppose a student doesn't get the necessary funding to commence studies in 2023. Can he or she reapply at the end of 2023? Certainly, yes. Please don't eliminate yourself. Just watch the website and keep an eye on the due dates. Remember, applications for admissions to programs open up at the end of March, and you have until June to apply. But if you cannot take your place once admission has been received, please do reapply the following year, but make sure you apply timeously. I think we're going to take our last question now. And this is a question that we actually prepared for you because we're seeing that happen a lot, not just in our faculty, but across the institution. So the question is, or the situation is, I am playing sport at a national level during my degree. Will I get permission to miss classes in order to play sport? I think it's fantastic that you can represent your country or your province or the university at sports level, but that should not happen at the expense of your studies, right?
Definitely.
So, the university has very clear guidelines on leave of absence, and especially for sports situations. So, what I suggest you do is that you familiarize yourself now already with that criteria and rules regarding leave of absence. There's a certain space where you have to apply for it through the registrar's office. But you will be permitted to miss classes. However, just because you're representing your country and your province doesn't excuse you from doing the work needed to obtain your degree. So just remember that. Right. Oh, there's one person trying to squeeze in a question, and I know I said we'll take the last one, but this is the very last one. I would like to ask, what does one do or know? She's all trying to find it. Okay, let me just get this question quickly. Okay, this question is about where do I find information about the modules? Go onto our website, click on programs, then click on yearbook, and you will find that that yearbook is going to become like your roadmap for your time in our faculty. There are various module descriptors. The structure of your program is in the yearbook. So go and look under your program name, be it foundation phase, be it intermediate phase, see what the modules are listed within the program, and then at the back section of the yearbook there are module descriptors where it gives you various details about the module. So if you want to know more about the modules that you'll be doing next year, go to our yearbook. All the information is in there. In fact, next year your lecturers will tell you or remind you, don't ask me unless you've consulted your yearbook. Right. Anything else from you, my friends and fellow hosts for this evening?
Oh, well, I think one thing I can tell you as you're sitting there, maybe you're still contemplating, being a teacher or education is a very noble profession. And if you miss this opportunity, I'm telling you that you'll definitely always wonder if you had done it. So we're looking forward to seeing you next year. Thanks very much.
Yes, we are looking forward to welcoming you at Stellenbosch University at the end of January 2023. So until then, goodbye.